There's a lot happening behind the scenes of the Dallas Cowboys right now. And if you really want to understand where this team is heading, you have to look beyond the headlines and into the financial structure that's shaping every move. The salary cap situation isn't just a number on a screen, it's the blueprint for how aggressive or conservative this front office can be. And right now, the Cowboys are walking a very interesting line between flexibility and restraint. When the first contract figures started circulating, a lot of them looked bigger than what they actually turned out to be. That's nothing new in the league. Initial reports almost always inflate the perception of a deal. But once the real numbers come out, the structure tells a completely different story. And for Dallas, those details matter more than ever because every dollar is being carefully managed to keep the roster competitive without creating long-term damage. Take the recent additions and contract adjustments, for example. On paper, some of these deals look like modern investments, but once you break them down year by year, you start to see how the team is protecting itself. Guaranteed money is the key indicator here. It tells you who the Cowboys truly believe in and who is simply being given an opportunity. When a player has a significant portion of his deal guaranteed, that's a strong signal he's part of the plan. When that guarantee is minimal or tied mostly to bonuses, it means nothing is locked in. That's where things get really interesting. Some players coming in have deals that practically secure their spot on the roster, while others are clearly in a prove-it situation. It creates internal competition, and at the same time, it gives the front office flexibility to move on quickly if needed. This is a calculated approach, not just to build depth, but to avoid being stuck with contracts that don't deliver value on the field. Another layer to this entire situation is how incentives are being handled. The Cowboys have structured many of these deals in a way that ties extra earnings to team success, specifically postseason performance. Because the team didn't reach the playoffs last season, those incentives are currently classified in a way that they don't hit the cap right now. That's a subtle but very important advantage. It allows the organization to keep its current cap number lower, while still giving players a chance to earn more if the team performs. It's a strategy that reflects confidence, but also caution. The front office is essentially saying, we're willing to reward success, but we're not going to pay for it upfront. And that approach keeps the current financial picture cleaner, even if it means potential adjustments down the road. Now, one of the biggest talking points has been the actual cap space available. And depending on where you look, you might get slightly different numbers. That's because different platforms calculate certain elements differently, especially when it comes to dead money and how specific contracts are categorized. The differences aren't massive, but they're enough to create confusion among fans trying to get a clear picture. So where does that leave the Cowboys right now? They're not at the top of the league in available space, not even close, but they're also not in trouble. They're sitting somewhere in that middle to lower tier range, which means they can still make moves, but they have to be strategic. Every signing, every extension, every restructure has to be done with purpose. And speaking of restructures, that's another area where Dallas has already made some important adjustments. A few key players have reworked their deals, lowering their immediate cap hits and pushing some of that financial weight into the future. It's a move that creates breathing room now, allowing the team to operate, but it also means those decisions will echo in the coming seasons. This is the balancing act the Cowboys are constantly managing. You want to stay competitive in the present without sacrificing too much of the future. And so far, it looks like they're choosing a measured approach rather than going all in. They're freeing up space where they can, but they're not emptying the tank just to make a splash. At the same time, the upcoming draft class adds another layer of complexity. Rookie contracts might seem small compared to veteran deals, but when you add them all together, it becomes a significant chunk of the cap. And here's the part that often gets overlooked. Not all of that rookie pool hits the cap immediately. Only a portion actually counts during the offseason due to roster limits, which gives the team a bit more flexibility than the raw number suggests. Even with that in mind, the Cowboys still have to plan carefully. Those incoming players will eventually take up space, and if the team wants to remain active in adding talent elsewhere, they need to keep that future impact in mind. It's not just about what they can afford today, it's about what they'll be able to sustain once the full roster is locked in. And that's why every small decision matters right now. From how contracts are structured, to which players receive guarantees, to how incentives are classified. It all feeds into the bigger picture. The Cowboys aren't just building a roster. They're managing a financial ecosystem that will determine how far this team can go, not just this season, but in the years ahead. Because make no mistake, there is still room for movement. Not massive, headline-grabbing moves necessarily, but calculated additions that can strengthen key areas without breaking the bank. And if the front office decides to get more aggressive, there are still mechanisms available to create additional space. It just depends on how far they're willing to push that flexibility and how much risk they're ready to take on as the season approaches. What makes this situation even more intriguing is how much hidden flexibility the Cowboys are still holding in reserve. On the surface, the available cap space might look limited, but once you start factoring in potential restructures and extensions, the picture changes dramatically. This front office has several levers it can pull at any moment, and each one could instantly create room for a significant move if they decide the timing is right. There are contracts on this roster that haven't been touched yet, and that's not by accident. When a deal remains untouched during a period like this, it often signals that the team is considering a bigger long-term plan rather than a short-term fix. Extensions, in particular, can be powerful tools. By converting salary into signing bonuses and spreading that cap hit across multiple years, the Cowboys could open up a substantial amount of space almost overnight. The question is not whether they can do it, but whether they actually want to commit to that path right now. Because every time you restructure or extend a deal, you're borrowing from the future. You're making the present easier, but you're also increasing the financial pressure down the line. And that's where Dallas seems to be exercising caution. Instead of going all in and maximizing every possible dollar, they're keeping options open. That approach might not generate immediate headlines, but it keeps the team in a healthier long-term position. Another key factor here is how clean the books look beyond this season. When you project forward, there's surprisingly little dead money weighing down future years. That's a major advantage. It means the Cowboys are not locked into a cycle of paying for past mistakes, which is something that has held back many other teams around the league. With that kind of financial clarity, they have the ability to pivot quickly if an opportunity presents itself. And opportunities always come. Whether it's a mid-season trade, a veteran becoming available unexpectedly, or even a breakout player demanding a new deal, having that flexibility can be the difference between reacting and capitalizing. The Cowboys seem to be positioning themselves to react with precision rather than desperation. At the same time, there are still clear areas on the roster that need attention. Depth in certain positions remains a concern, and that's where smart financial management becomes critical. Instead of overspending on one big name, the team may look to spread resources across multiple contributors, building a more balanced unit. It's not the flashiest approach, but it often leads to more consistent results over the course of a long season. There's also an internal evaluation happening with some of the younger players. Contracts with minimal guarantees are essentially invitations to compete, and training camp will play a huge role in determining who sticks and who doesn't. That internal competition can reshape the roster without requiring additional spending, which is another subtle way to maximize value under the cap. Meanwhile, the draft class will begin to take shape, and that brings its own ripple effects. As rookies come in and start pushing for roles, veterans on the bubble could find themselves in difficult positions. That's where the financial structure of their contracts becomes crucial. Players without guaranteed money are far easier to move on from, which gives the Cowboys even more flexibility as they fine-tune the roster. And then there's the psychological side of all this. Players are fully aware of how contracts are structured. They know what guarantees mean, they know what incentives signal, and they understand where they stand within the organization. That awareness can fuel motivation, especially for those on short-term deals or fighting for a secure spot. It creates an environment where performance truly dictates opportunity. All of these elements combine to create a very dynamic situation. The Cowboys are not just managing numbers. They're managing expectations, competition, and long-term vision all at once. Every move, or even the decision not to make a move, sends a message about how the team views itself and its chances. And as the offseason continues to unfold, the pace can change quickly. One decision can trigger a chain reaction, opening up space, leading to a signing, which then shifts the depth chart and forces another adjustment. It's a constant cycle, and the teams that handle it best are the ones that stay disciplined while remaining ready to act. Right now, Dallas appears to be walking that line carefully. They have enough flexibility to make meaningful additions if they choose to, but they're not forcing anything. They're evaluating, adjusting, and waiting for the right moment to strike. And with the foundation they've built financially, they're in a position where that patience could pay off in a big way as new opportunities begin to emerge and reshape the landscape of the roster. And as those opportunities begin to surface, timing becomes everything. The Cowboys know that the market doesn't move all at once. There are waves to free agency, waves to trades, and even waves to roster cuts across the league. Veterans who are too expensive for one team suddenly become valuable options for another, especially for a franchise that has kept enough cap flexibility to react. Dallas is clearly keeping an eye on those potential windows, understanding that patience now could translate into value later. There's also the reality that not every improvement needs to come from outside the organization. Internal growth is something the Cowboys are counting on in a big way. Younger players stepping into larger roles can provide high-level production at a fraction of the cost, and that's one of the most efficient ways to build a competitive roster under the salary cap. If even a few of those players take a leap, it changes the entire financial equation and reduces the urgency to spend aggressively. At the same time, the front office has to weigh risk versus reward with every possible move. Bringing in a proven veteran might stabilize a position immediately, but could also limit opportunities for developing talent. On the other hand, relying too heavily on unproven players can create inconsistencies when the season begins. This is where the Cowboys' current strategy becomes clear. They're trying to maintain a balance, adding pieces that complement the roster without blocking its long-term evolution. Another element that cannot be ignored is how future negotiations are already being influenced by what's happening now. Players who are due for extensions are watching closely, not just at their own situations, but at how the team handles others. The structure of current deals, the willingness to guarantee money, and the overall cap management philosophy all play a role in shaping those upcoming conversations. It's a ripple effect that extends far beyond this offseason. And as the team moves closer to training camp, the pressure to make final decisions will start to build. Roster battles will intensify, financial priorities will become clearer, and the margin for error will shrink. Every contract, every cap hit, and every calculated risk will begin to translate into on-field reality. That's when the true impact of all these behind-the-scenes moves will start to reveal itself, as the Cowboys continue navigating a path that is as much about strategy as it is about talent. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a twist few insiders saw coming, whispers around the league suggest that Boye Mafe has quietly emerged as a name gaining real traction behind closed doors, with the Dallas Cowboys now being linked in what could become one of the more unexpected moves of the current cycle. While nothing has been formalized, multiple voices within league circles hint that conversations have intensified, painting a picture of a scenario that, until recently, seemed unlikely. Mafe, known for his explosive athleticism and ability to disrupt plays off the edge, has reportedly caught the attention of key decision-makers who are exploring ways to inject fresh energy into their defensive front. The buzz isn't just casual speculation either. There's a growing sense that internal discussions have shifted from hypothetical to exploratory, a stage where frameworks and fits begin to matter more than mere curiosity. What makes this situation particularly intriguing is how quietly it has developed. There's been no public push, no overt signals, only a steady buildup of interest that insiders describe as organic. Within the Cowboys structure, There appears to be a belief that Mafe's skill set could complement their existing pieces in ways that might not be immediately obvious to outsiders, but could prove impactful over time. Skeptics argue that such a move would require careful maneuvering, both financially and strategically, especially given the team's current roster dynamics. Still, the fact that Mafe's name continues to surface in conversations suggests there is more substance than smoke. Around the league, executives are watching closely, aware that the Cowboys have a history of making bold decisions when the timing feels right. For now, it remains firmly in the realm of rumor, a developing storyline fueled by behind-the-scenes momentum rather than public confirmation. Yet if the chatter proves accurate, this could evolve into a move that redefines expectations and catches many off guard, reinforcing once again that in the NFL, the most surprising developments are often the ones no one sees coming. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.